Good morning, everybody. I could really just say, yeah, I agree, actually, because what I am going to tell you is just that. What we're looking for as a business is people who can apply learning, they can do it quickly, they can do it in a practical way, that will produce and articulate the relevance of their solutions to a global audience. But also people who are able to design in inclusivity. So people who have a real understanding that the world isn't made up of people who are the same. I mean, just look around this room today. We have people who probably there is a huge difference in age. We have gender differences, we have racial differences, and we need people who can understand that inclusivity is an incredibly important thing. And from a hard-nosed business perspective, recent research would tell you that designing for inclusivity is 10,000 times cheaper than building something and then having to adapt it for a broader market later. So, for example, if you build a product that is great for people with average dexterity, and forget that in Europe alone there are 19 million disabled customers, it's going to cost you an awful lot of money to fix that solution afterwards. But more and more what we're seeing is that what people need are also products that are innovative, that are also intuitive. I don't believe that you can produce intuitive products and services that people who have less skill than the designer can actually use readily and easily, unless you have been working in an applied and experiential way during the act of learning. And that's something that, again, is incredibly important to us as a business. But we also need people who are prepared in a much more holistic way. We absolutely, as part of business, particularly in the current climate, need people who are mentally resilient, people who can deal with ambiguity, because actually what advances in science are telling us is that we don't know as much as we thought we did. We don't have so many things that are absolute positives. Yes, that's definitely right. Yes, that's definitely wrong. We are starting to create new truths all of the time as our ability, our capability and our knowledge increases. So more and more we have to deal with ambiguity, not just in cultural terms, not just in economic terms, but I believe also in scientific terms. And if you look at the fact that in the last 12 months as a human race, we created more unique data than we did in the 5,000 years that preceded it, you'll perhaps understand why I feel that's an important thing to make. The other point is that for too long we've developed lots of experts who are not actually, although they have great application, designing things which have perhaps a very long term to market, they're not great at working in teams. Everything we know about the future is going to be collaborative. Open source models can argue whether it works or not. That trend is going to continue. Everything that we can see into the future tells us that collaboration is key. So we need people who can work as part of a team, and that means they have to have good communication skills too. So what we're also seeing as a trend, interestingly, is that businesses are porous. We've seen through technology the rise in things like the citizen marketeer. Now, these people are incredibly powerful and are to be feared by those of us who have service brands to worry about, because a citizen marketeer can go online and they can tell 1 billion people what they think about your product, your service. They can kill your brand, or they can make it. Now that's a very interesting phenomenon, because what it means is that businesses are becoming porous. We have, for example, many people now who work for BT who are not employed by us, we don't pay them, but actually one individual clocks up regularly about 39, don't ask me why it's 39, but 39 hours a week where they are having such a fabulous time online, working with technology, that they actually solve our customers' problems. They debug stuff for us, they tell people how to use technology. They are not an employee, they never will be. So what I'm working round to telling you is that the sort of people I've described, we need those people in our workforce for sure. But is the whole concept of workforces actually a dying thing? You know, because it's a fairly random concept anyway, isn't it? You get a group of people, you gather them together in the hope that you're going to have enough work to give them and they're going to have the right skills to be able to do it. It's a bit of an odd concept actually, isn't it? More and more what we are going to see is work that is seeded out there, and the people who can do it best, quickest and at the best price, which isn't always the cheapest, but at the best price, will be the people who are engaged to do that activity. So, what we actually need is the kind of people I'm talking about, people who have the power to take academic learning and apply it in a way that has relevance, in a way that is accessible out there to customers. I need them as part of my family of workers, but I also need them in my supply chain. I need them in the market generally, and I need them innovating out there through small businesses and other things to drive and consume the products and services that my business will sell. Increasingly, because businesses' response to the economic environment we've got is to make our processes cheaper. We're going to have to do that. The obvious way to do that is to sell capability and to get customers to self-service. And you're seeing that more and more. Everywhere you go now, you self-service, don't you? You know, you do your own banking, you do your own shopping online, you pay for everything online. You're not actually being serviced, you're doing it yourself. And in order to continue to do that, in order to make the earnings for shareholders that allow us to pay people for getting work done through whatever means, that means we now need computer literate customers. And we need them in their millions, in their billions, because that is the only way forward. So, doesn't it make sense then that computers, and again, I'm not actually convinced that computers are going to be around for too much longer. So I'm wondering whether we actually ought to be thinking about device-based learning or device-assisted learning, actually, because that's going to keep changing too. How on earth do you know what to invest in? What we have to be able to do is to educate people to learn, educate people so that they can draw down from the myriad of stuff, information that's coming at them at 200 miles an hour, that piece of information that is relevant, and apply it quickly, and apply it in a way that is human-friendly. That's what we're looking for. That's a great deal for us to ask, actually. But I think what Joe is saying is you've already potentially got the tools to do that. Have we got the capability? Have we got the will? And that's absolutely... and I think one of the things we should say up front is that actually we're being a little bit pessimistic because things haven't gone that badly wrong so far. There are issues, there's no doubt about that. But if you look at the applications and the advances in technology that we've seen in just the last 10 years, that's mostly, not in all cases. At BT we have lots of older workers who are actually into their 70s and 80s, who are developing and innovating for us. They work just a few hours a week. But if we lose their capability, we're in real trouble. But actually, lots of the development that we've seen in the last 10 years or so has been produced by the people who have left your institutions and classes and come into industry. So we know we're getting some things right. It's happening, it's happening all around us. So it's not all doom and gloom, but for an organisation like BT in the ICT industry, what we see is two problems. One really is about brand, and the other one is a failure in the education system, I think, to motivate or to generate real purposeful learning around STEM subjects. So what I think we're doing is we're producing enough people to keep the environment changing, to keep the products and services out there moving forward. What we're not doing is producing enough people so that the masses are really able to engage with that and move us forward as a society. So one of the things I thought I would just say, because I know this is a scientific organisation and I'm just from HR, so I get away with opinion. I don't have to prove it. But I thought I would give you a little bit of evidence. So since 2002, what we've seen is that the number of young people seeking a career in the IT industry has declined. Not just a little bit, it's declined massively. 22,000 in 2002, 11,000 this year. What are we doing to turn them off? Is it industry? Is it the education system? Is it university? Is it something we're doing between us? But that is trouble. We are storing up huge problems for the future. The other thing we're seeing is that, if UCAS points is a true barometer, what we're seeing is that the academic quality of young people is also going down. It's declining year on year because we're seeing UCAS point scores go down. That's two pretty negative trends we've got. Again, in terms of inclusivity, about 50% of our product sales are female purchases. Women make about 80% of all purchasing decisions. They don't necessarily tell men that, but they do. In fact, interestingly, women are now the majority in terms of chief procurement officers. Also, about 40% of households in the UK where men and women both work, the woman is now the highest earner. This area is a massive growth area, and yet only 15% of the group of people who want to work in this industry are women. Again, why isn't this subject appealing? What is it that's not clicking? So, we are looking at also big demographic change. Last year was the first year that there were more older people in this country than there were younger people. We are ageing rapidly as a society. More than 50% of all the people who have ever lived to over 65 are alive today. So our world is changing rapidly, but we're not building that capital, that ability to drive us forward. And just in case any of you are thinking that perhaps the really important thing here is what do the young people think, let me just tell you, give you a couple of quotes about ICT and the way sciences are taught at school. Talking about ICT, one boy from year 13 said, "Our IT teacher constantly looked suicidal." Thought that was quite telling. Another one said, "Doing this course is a recipe for a midlife crisis," which is a bit scary for a year 13 to be saying that. And another said, "Well, actually, GCSE really killed it for me. I don't like using a computer at all now for anything." How are we doing that? Now, that may only be isolated instances, I know, but if we are creating that strength of feeling in a generation that has a natural aptitude, the average age of access to technology is now 18 months. We, every few years, BT tests out with preschool kids. We just put them in a room with a load of kit and see what they do with it. At 18 months now, they can clearly identify an iPad, an iPod and an iPhone. They know they are doing different things. I watched a 2-year-old toddle into the room, look at something and go, "IP," and pick it up and said, "Phone mummy." It's incredible. They have no fear. It's natural. It's intuitive. We have to be able to service those people going forward. So, sure. I mean, BT is doing lots and lots of things about this. We're very active in this area. But what we're finding is that the biggest difference we can make is through giving people real experience. It seems in young people's minds when we bring them in and do what we call work inspiration, when we give them access to BT people who are actually working with this way, using science, using maths to solve problems, it seems to click. It gives them meaning and it gives them purpose, and that creates real interest. And what we're seeing is if we can create that interest early enough, then we've got them. We're turning that round. And the other thing I would leave you with is at a societal level, one of the things that we know is there's about a 36% chance of a young person becoming a NEET in this country. If they have one meaningful interaction where they are doing something practical with an employer, that reduces by about 26%. By the fourth interaction, that's down as low as 6%. If we get this right, if we can give people, young people, access to a different way of learning, a different way of learning for the future and interaction with positive employers, we can actually, we know we can instill lifelong sense of progress and purposefulness that will change their life outcomes altogether. And that's what I'd like to see us do. But I'm very clear as an employer, there are things I can do, but actually I can't change anything unless we all work together. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.